Hello, this is Heidi Meyers, immigration attorney. There's a very interesting Supreme Court case that came out on December 10th, 2020. It's called Tanzeen versus Tanvir. It is, the majority opinion was written by Justice Clarence Thomas. It is a unanimous opinion. All the justices on the U.S. Supreme Court agreed on it. And it applies not just to the Muslim men involved in the particular case, but it would also apply to any individual whose religious freedom or religious exercise is substantially burdened by the government. So it involves the interpretation of the Religious Freedom Restoration Act of 1993. Now, Justice Thomas wrote the opinion, and there were basically two issues in the case. So one was, are money damages available for violations of the Religious Freedom Restoration Act? And then the other issue was, can the individual FBI agents in this case be sued in their individual capacity? So basically what happened was, this case involves three Muslim men. Each of them is either a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident, and they're all honest and law-abiding. They were not suspected of any kind of criminal activity. They were not suspected of being any kind of national security risk. However, they were pursued by the FBI. They were interrogated repeatedly. They were threatened with arrest and deportation if they did not cooperate and become informants. So the FBI was pressurizing these individuals to become informants against their own religious community, to spy on their mosque, on the Muslim community. And each of them refused, in part because of their religious beliefs. And in retaliation for their refusal to become informants, the FBI put each of them on the no-fly list. So the no-fly list is maintained by the FBI in its terrorist screening center. The terrorist screening center is supposed to have a list of known or suspected individuals who are known or suspected of being involved in some way in terrorist activity. So obviously none of these individuals were involved in any kind of terrorist activity. They were not suspected of being involved, but the FBI retaliated against them by putting them on this list. And as a result of being put on the list, they could not travel abroad and see their family. One had an elderly mother who was very ill. He could not go see her. Additionally, it had a really negative impact on their careers and on their reputations. So they were really harmed by this. Now, before the Supreme Court made a decision earlier on in the case, the government, I guess they were afraid they were going to lose, so they took the men off the list as a result of the litigation. So one of the issues in the case was the government was arguing that they should only be eligible for injunctive relief and that money damages should not be available for these types of violations. So Justice Thomas, in his opinion, rejected that argument. He looked at the statute itself, at the plain meaning of the statute, and the statute says appropriate relief. It doesn't limit relief to injunctive relief. And then Justice Thomas looked at the early history of the United States and found that in the, after our country was formed in the early 1800s, that money damages against government officials were common and were allowed. So the common law allowed lawsuits for money damages against government officials in the early history of our country. So he looked at that. He looked at the plain meaning of what does the word appropriate mean and appropriate relief, and he looked at the dictionary meaning of that. So he basically stuck to the plain meaning of the statute itself, which was quite clear, and he also looked at the early history. Was that allowed in the early history of the United States? He also looked at the language of the Civil Rights Act, the 42 U.S.C. Section 1983, and found the language there was also similar. Okay, so the other issue was, can the FBI agents be sued in their individual capacity? So the government was arguing that you could not sue the FBI agents as individuals in their personal capacity, that you could only sue, I guess, the FBI itself. So Justice Thomas and the Supreme Court rejected that argument. Again, just by reading the statute, all you have to do basically is look at the statute. So he looked at the definition of government in the statute, and the definition was a branch, department, agency, instrumentality, and official or other person acting under color of law of the United States. So Thomas held that the statute specifically includes officials or other persons acting under color of law, and that this tracks the common civil rights statute 42 U.S.C. Section 1983, which has the same sort of definition, and which allows money damages against individual government officials. Now, another thing is, so Justice Thomas, in his opinion, he stuck to the analysis that conservatives use, which is to look at the exact words in the statute. What do the words specifically say? And also looking, like I said, what the founders meant when the Constitution was written, and the early history after the Constitution. Now, Justice Sotomayor, during oral argument, she brought up issues of legislative intent. So during the hearings before the Religious Freedom Restoration Act was passed, Congress listened to the testimony of many Orthodox Jewish families whose loved ones were subjected to autopsies by the government in violation of their religious beliefs. So one of the things Justice Mayor pointed out during oral argument was that injunctive relief would not help these people. The only form of relief you could give them would be money damages, and she came up with some other examples. For example, a prisoner whose Bible was destroyed by a prison guard, and some other examples. So even though Justice Thomas didn't look at the legislative history, if you do look at it, it is also very helpful, and it reinforces the outcome, the decision in this case, that Congress intended there to be money damages for people who were victims of government action that harmed their religious exercise, their free exercise of their religion and their religious beliefs. Now, this isn't directly an immigration case, but since it involved the no-fly list, the terror screening center, it is related. And then there's also been a couple of immigration cases. Well, they're not immigration cases, but they're related to the topic of immigration. So in Arizona, several individuals had been criminally prosecuted for leaving water and food for migrants who had crossed the border into Arizona, into one of the wildlife refuges. So they were from a Universalist church, and they were leaving water and food out for the migrants. As you know, there's a very high death rate for migrants who cross into the United States from Mexico, because they come in, it's a desert. It's unbelievably hot. They dehydrate very quickly. So basically, these individuals wanted to save lives. And in fact, their organization, the name of their organization was No Más Muertes, so no more deaths. So wanting to save these people's lives and following their religious beliefs, they left out water and food. And for that, they were arrested and they were federally prosecuted. So a nice aspect of that case is that their convictions were overturned because a federal judge found that they were acting in accord with their religious beliefs to save the lives of others, and that the government was substantially burdening their religious exercise. So these cases aren't specifically immigration cases, but they are related to immigration, and I just thought it was also very interesting. All right, so thank you very much, and that's it for today. So, as I said, the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, even though the Supreme Court case specifically involved Muslim men, it doesn't really matter what your religion is. If your religious exercise is burdened by the government, it would apply to anyone. All right, and I'm at 11 Broadway, Suite 925, New York, New York, 10004. My number is 646-508-5225. That's the law office of Heidi J. Meyers, heidimeyerslaw@gmail.com. And if you like this video, give it a like, and please subscribe to my channel. All right, thank you very much. See you next time. Bye-bye.